Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new episode of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 299. We are covering movies that are coming out for the week of Friday, June 20th, 2025. Movies that are being reviewed on this episode include Inside, Don't Tell Larry, Eye for an Eye, Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project, Inside, and The Queen of My Dreams. I am joined by my better Eric Holmes, co-host Eric Holmes. How are you, buddy?
Not bad. Got some days off, so that's good.
Good to have some days off, yeah.
I didn't write it in the Google Doc, but I did start watching The Other.
Oh, you did start watching The Other. Okay, maybe
I'll say got about 15 minutes left. I don't know that I'll finish it.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh no, you have only 15 minutes. It gets okay. All right, so that's your rewind and The Other. Eric just could not.
That's my rewind, not for me.
Not for. Oh, I love The Other. I
will say, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just one of those things where it's just rolling my eyes. Like, I know there's a audience for this. I'm not that audience.
Fair enough, Eric Holmes.
But what there is an audience for, or what there should be an audience for, Tatami.
Oh, okay.
Opening in Los Angeles at the Laemmle Royal this Friday, June 20th. Holding over at the IFC Center in New York and in select theaters nationwide June 27th. So I know I gave it 5 stars. Bruce, I think, gave it 5 stars. You wish you gave it 5 stars.
I do. I wish I gave it 5 stars. I think I tried to retroactively give it 5 stars, but that's still not fair. I did give it 4.5 stars.
Yeah. It's still a fantastic score just all around. And it's well deserved. It's a fantastic movie. So hopefully that one picks up some steam. We'll see what happens.
Okay. I was messaging Bruce over the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to ask you, Eric, does it ever get annoying, frustrating is the word, that we will review, and I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back. I'm not giving us credit for anything. We just get these screener links because the movies are coming out on a given Friday. So It's not like we're out hitting the boards, just invading places and demanding movies be seen. We get these movies early, so we have an advantage. But does it ever frustrate you, Eric, that we never, like something like Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, this movie you mentioned, Tatami, we'll watch it, or what's the one with, I'm trying to think, the one that Anderson loved as well, all of us loved, Breakfast in what? Breakfast?
Dinner in America?
Dinner in America. Thank you, Eric Holmes.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Breakfast at Tiffany's. But no, so we'll, on CinemAddicts, I'm sure you listeners, you know this, we'll review a movie, and then I think most people won't get to it until it hits Netflix, it hits a streamer, and we're usually reviewing movies maybe, it seems to me, 4 to 5 months in advance. Does that ever frustrate you, Eric? That Tatami might be the movie to talk about when it hits Netflix 4 or 5 months ago, and then we were just yelling out into the empty mountains with no echo out there months ago.
Yeah, look, if a good movie gets picked up or gets some traction, that's always a good thing.
Yes,
whether it came from us or someone else, usually from someone else because we're not that big of a podcast, but
dare you say that when we go?
It's the truth.
when we go to actually Pod Notes, or I forgot what it was called, Pod Notes, we're ranked number 1 as far as movie review podcasts. We're right up there.
We're the number 1 movie podcast. We're the best one. I understand that, but we're not the most popular one.
Oh, thank you, Eric. You of the courtroom. But you're very yes. We are in the top, I think, 1% of movie review podcasts. I will pat ourselves on the back on that.
When you do have 3 billion movie podcasts,
I know, but being the top
numbers don't quite. But regardless, I don't think like we have as much of a reach as like some movie podcasts or YouTube channels or whatnot.
Fair, yes.
But then again, like the ones that are real popular, like they're talking about the Superman movie coming out, and more power to them.
Right, Superman trailer.
That's kind of what it is. Like the Superman trailer reaction is what gets views. Talking about Tatami, do a Tatami review. People are like, I don't know what the hell that is. Skip.
Until they're not going to skip when it's number 1.
Yeah, and then it'll, like you said, like a couple months from now, maybe it's probably like a Oscar hopeful, and then all of a sudden we start getting clicks on a video we did 6 months ago.
like Lunana, a yak in the classroom.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's fun. Oh, as long as we keep, I'm not complaining about that we're seeing movies. I just wish that more people, other than our small and intimate cinematics community, and thank you, community, for listening to us for all these years. We've been up and running since 2015. Our weekly goal is to spotlight movies that maybe are under the radar. That said, the flip side of that, Eric Holmes, is I am so concentrated on me, you, and Bruce reviewing all of these quote under the radar movies, whether they be films or documentaries. I'll look at what are the big movies that came out each Friday, and I go, wait, I didn't know that movie came out. Wait, How to What Your Dragon live action has been out for a week? What? Gerard Butler's in it, and I'm what? So
you know what? I can say I saw that movie.
Okay. How can you say that you saw the movie? Oh, because you saw this.
I saw How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh,
was that like a decade ago when it came out?
Oh, okay. Yeah. You can say you saw it.
I don't even see I get it.
Get it.
I think you got the gist of that one.
In fairness, I think this week Eric Holmes is going to...
Greg, here's the thing. Here's the pitch. It's like How to Train Your Dragon, but more realistically animated than it was previously.
And I think that there's people acting in it and they get paid more money. And it's more, I guess it's more money, retroactively more money for the franchise. Look, there's a great thing about Cinematics is we cover under the radar, but as far as the big movies, we don't cover it. I don't know if we ever will. All that said, on this episode, Eric Holmes will be splitting right down the middle because he actually has possible recommend, he has a movie, I believe, called Echo Valley, which is not in theaters, but it was released on, I believe, Apple TV Plus a week ago. So Eric Holmes...
on the 13th. Yeah,
okay.
About that.
So Eric Holmes was actually good and said, hey, let's take myself, Bruce Purkey, and Greg Srisavasdi out of our really small little indie hole and try to find something bigger. And Echo Valley, it is not How to Train Your Dragon, but it's still a big movie. So we have a big movie coming up in moments. But Eric Holmes, however, has a first review of our under the radar film. It's called Don't Tell Larry, and it's I believe an office space type comedy. I could be wrong. An workplace comedy. That is right. Maybe.
Definitely a workplace. Definitely a comedy. But when you say it like that, it's kind of got that. It's got that dark humor, kind of like Very Bad Things.
Fair. Very Bad
something
Things.
like that.
Okay, underrated movie. Peter Berg.
The stuff that happens in this movie, basically, you have Ed Begley Jr. promises, I believe it was Dot Marie Jones. Oh no,
Patty Guggenheim. She's
there. You go,
Susan.
Yeah, Dot Marie Jones. She was the detective, but Patty Guggenheim. She's employee of the year 8 years in a row. Ed Begley Jr. is going to retire, and he's going to make her the CEO. But then this guy Larry comes into the picture. And he's a weirdo. Patty plays Susan's talking to him. And she's like, how long have you been in this business? It's about 30 minutes. It's like, how do you get the job? He's like, I don't know. I just ended up here. And it turns out that Ed Begley Jr. is Larry's dad, but Larry doesn't know this. So he's been an absentee father, so he feels bad. So he's going to make Larry the CEO. And Susan's like, this is crap. This is a bunch of BS. This is a family show, Greg.
That's fine. TRAP's fine. Yeah, TRAP's fine.
But through a bunch of, basically, so through the, I don't think I can give anything else away. Through the rest of it, Susan keeps trying to sabotage Larry's rise to the CEO because she feels she deserves the job. And then in doing that, it causes more problems. And then she has to obfuscate things and hide evidence and sabotage other things and basically keep lying throughout the movie. And then throughout the movie, she just keeps digging herself in bigger and bigger holes until you get towards the end of the movie. It's, wow, every character in this movie is a piece of crap. And
is it funny? Is it interesting?
It is. Not like super laugh out loud funny. I'm trying to think. I think Very Bad Things is a good example. I'm not doubled over laughing at Very Bad Things, but it's definitely a comedy. It's definitely got its lightheartedness to it, even though the stuff that's going on is the characters are completely deplorable. But I think if you like Very Bad Things, Don't Tell Larry's kind of within that wheelhouse. So give it a shot if you want.
Okay, what is your rating on this Very Bad Things type of movie, which is called Don't Tell Larry?
I'll probably go 3 stars on this.
Okay.
I think I might have liked, upon reflection, I think I might have liked it a bit better than 3 stars, but 3 stars seems about right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like this would also be like a good palate cleanser. You'll watch a super bummer of a movie, maybe hit up Don't Tell Larry afterwards to recenter you, so to speak.
Okay, so that is Don't Tell Larry. It's directed and written by Greg Porper and John Shimka, and it's in theaters and on demand June 20th. Next up is a film prison drama called Inside. It's written and directed by Charles Williams. Charles Williams, I apologize. It's his directing debut. It centers on a kid named Mel, played by, I believe, you know what? I gotta find his. One second. Let me look at Inside. I think it's
I'll look
Justin
up
Miller.
Inside, but I think I'll come up with 40 different movies.
Yeah, hold on. Inside. Yeah, hold on. Inside. Yes, it is. I believe the name is Justin Miller. Hold on. Toby Wallace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Miller.
6, 7,
Vincent
8,
Miller.
9,
Vincent
10.
Miller. Oh, what? Oh, all of the Inside
I got
stuff.
10 different Inside movies, and now I'm going to the 11, 12, 13,
Wow.
14.
Anyways, I got it. Anyways,
Yeah, they should change the name of that.
written and directed by Charles Williams, making his directing debut. Inside centers on Mel Blight, played by Vincent Miller. He is a teen. I think he's around 17 or 18. He's being transferred from juvenile to adult prison. This adult prison is pretty intense because his bunkmate, his roommate in the cell, is this guy named Mark Shepard, played by Cosmo Jarvis. Mark Shepard, he is in jail for the rape and murder of a 12 or 13-year-old girl. And he's actually in this prison, but he's Mark Shepard, again played by Cosmo Jarvis. He's trying to stay in this prison because it's not maximum security. There is a chance that Shepard will be transferred to a maximum security prison. That said, Mel Blight, the teenager who is transitioning from juvenile to this prison, now has Mark Shepard, this very seemingly, I'm assuming, dangerous convict criminal, as his bunkmate. The little twist, and it's not giving it too much away because this is the first act, is Mark Shepard is seemingly reformed. He's a very religious person right now. And Mark Shepard notices that his new bunkmate, Mel Blight, has a passion for keyboard playing. So what happens is Mel and Mark, they strike up a friendship, a convenient friendship because they're bunkmates. Whereas when Mark actually starts doing sermons in front of other prisoners in a room, Mel will play the keyboards or the organ and play the music. And the movie has several sections where Mark Shepard is giving homilies and sermons and whatnot to people to please convert and follow the life of the Lord, whatnot. Guy Pearce co-stars as Warren Murphy. He is a soon-to-be paroled inmate. And Warren is also, along with being almost released, the catch is he's also a gambling degenerate and he owes someone in the prison a lot of money. If he does not pull off the killing of Mark Shepard, because people in the prison want Mark Shepard killed before he possibly gets to maximum security prison, or people don't want Mark Shepard in their prison whatsoever because of his obvious crime of killing a child way back in the day.
Can I point something out about that?
Yeah.
They had, what was it? The guy that killed Jeffrey Dahmer? They killed him in prison. Now,
Right.
I'm not defending what Jeffrey Dahmer did at all, but I don't think a rapist murderer has the moral integrity to be able to kill someone else because, oh, they're a murderer, I'm only a rapist, or
Right.
they're a rapist, they're a child rapist, I'm only a murderer, I'm better than them. Sorry, guy, you're not the person to make that decision.
Exactly. Yeah. So the target is the rapist murderer, Mark Shepard. Warren Murphy, I don't know what he's in prison for. Oh yeah, I'm not going to say what he's in prison for. He played by Guy Pearce. He promises the person he owes money to, that he will get Mark Shepard killed. And if he kills Mark Shepard, he will erase his gambling debt and he'll have a little bit of money on the side as well. So there's a couple of things that are going on right now. Is Warren, again played by Guy Pearce, hires or actually ingratiates himself with the young kid, Mel Blight, and he's trying to tell Mel, hey, you got to kill your bunkmate. You got to kill Mark Shepard, and then we'll split the money. So that is the sort of the plot dynamics of Inside. Again, like I said, it's written and directed by Charles Williams. I don't know what you think of prison dramas in general, Eric, that genre itself, but this one is a memorable film. We all know that Cosmo Jarvis, you know him, a lot of people know him from Shogun, Guy Pearce, LA Confidential, last year in The Brutalist. They're both very good actors and they're both excellent in this movie. The biggest surprise for me is newcomer Vincent Miller as Mel Blight, because you get to really see why Mel is in prison. You get to explore his mental health and also his journey in the past, how his past has really damaged his current life. And it's just a very powerful movie, acted all around, and it's very tense because it's in prison. You never know what's going to happen to a bunch of these people, and it's it's a humanistic drama as well without being too preachy, and it's just a great told drama. Inside, it's actually, let me see when it's going to be. It's going to be in theaters June 20th. I'm giving Inside 4.5 stars. Just, I have no idea why I'm not giving it 5, to be honest. Everyone's excellent in this movie, and the effects are fantastic. Yeah,
Great. Just Google Inside movie and it'll come right up.
Again, this is one of these things where Inside is a movie title that is very hard to find because it's such a generic title, and unfortunately it might be lost in the shuffle, and I hope it isn't, because there's so many great things about this movie. And like Tatami, like we mentioned earlier in this episode, like Eric mentioned, there are movies like this that really need to be seen. Inside is one of them. It's going to be worth seeing in theaters if you want to see something, a smaller scale film in theaters June 20th. That is Inside. Yes, Eric.
I just Googled Tatami. Guess what? The first thing that popped up was
What?
that movie that we saw that talked about.
Oh, what? Inside? Oh,
Tatami.
Oh,
I
Tatami.
Googled Tatami. Hold on, let me Google Inside.
No, Inside is just going to be happy. Google everything. So, anyways.
2023 film
Yeah.
written by Ben Hoskins.
Oh, that's the one with, I think, Willem Dafoe, maybe, possibly, right? So,
Yep, Willem Dafoe. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's not the one Greg was talking about, though.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes up.
So that is Inside. Would love to hear what you guys think about that film. And that is it for me for this review. I also have one more review. It's called Eye for an Eye. It's a horror thriller, which is, how do I say this? This is a very interesting movie, and it's interesting for a couple of really good reasons. Okay. So, Eric, look up Eye for an Eye on IMDb, see what you get. The main star is.
I got Eye for an Eye 1996, Eye for an Eye 2022, Eye for an Eye 2019, Eye for an Eye 1981, 1966, 2025. That must be the one we're talking about. TV series 2003, Eye for an Eye short 2018.
There's so
Filmmakers, please, better titles. Can we please do better titles? Sorry.
Yeah, for an eye.
Didn't mean to go off on a rant, but like this is helping you.
Right.
If you're making a movie, don't call it Shawshank Redemption. There's already one. Don't call it Inside. There's apparently 500 of them.
So this is Eye for an Eye. It's directed by Colin Tilley, and it's written by Elisa Victoria. It's based on her graphic novel. It centers on this young girl named Anna, young teenager. Anna, she is grieving the loss of her parents. She moves from New York, I think she was living in Brooklyn with her late parents, to a small Florida town to live with her grandmother, played by Esapetha Murkerson. She's never met her grandma, and when she sees her grandma, she realizes her grandma is blind. She doesn't have her eyes, and her grandma lives out in the middle of the woods, very remote location. And her grandmother, obviously blind, and she needs a wheelchair. You know those wheelchair things it's a 2-story home. She has one of those wheelchair contraptions, which helps her get from the bottom of the stairs to the top. And the grandma leads a very secluded life. Okay, so Anna is finding it hard to bond with her grandmother. What she does is she goes out into the woods, which, by the way, grandma says don't go out in the woods. The first thing that her granddaughter does, Anna again, she goes out in the middle of the woods and she meets a couple of local teenagers played by Finn Bennett and Laken Giles. She befriends them. Everything's okay. One day, one of the teens, again, the teen played by Finn Bennett, he starts bullying someone, a little kid, on, I believe, rollerblades or roller skates, and the kid gets injured. And what happens is the kid doesn't like getting bullied, right? Understandably, he's very traumatized, and he wants to actually seek revenge on these teenagers who bullied him. Again, remember, it's only the guy who bullied him, not the two girls, but maybe by not actually defending the kid. Maybe they're complicit. So what happens? There might be a supernatural force in Eye for an Eye. There's possibly a dreamscape kind of situation, like a Sandman type of monster. And I'm not going to say, I'll just say this: there's a tree in the middle of the forest in the woods that might have some supernatural powers. And that's it. There's this real interesting creature, supernatural creature that haunts people's dreams and then ultimately feasts on their eyeballs when they finally awake. The movie is a very interesting film directed by Colin Tilley. I really appreciated the way the visual language of this movie, the fact that seemingly each frame is a beautiful visual composition. It really looks good. I'm sure Colin Tilley didn't have a lot of money to make this movie, but the locations, whether it be the woods, the Florida woods, I don't know where this movie was shot, by the way. I think it was shot in Georgia specifically, but it gives a great sense of location. The acting is excellent. Asa Merkerson, we all know how great of an actress she is, but there's also someone else who plays the sister of the grandmother, and I'm going to look up her name right now. And she actually has a really nice side role as well. Let me look up her name. Golda Rochevelle. And she plays Patty, the sister of the grandmother, and she has a really good role. Just some really good acting all around for Eye for an Eye. The actual creature feature stuff, to me, was secondary to the relationships of the people. So I found the relationship, the first half, much stronger than the second half, but still the second half lived up enough. And the third act actually is pretty memorable. I just wish the ending was a little bit abrupt, a little bit too abrupt for me, but it's still a first-rate horror thriller experience. The visual language in this movie is really top-notch. It's one of these movies that one can. Sometimes I like to watch a movie just because of how beautiful it looks, and Eye for an Eye is one of those type of movies. So anyways, Eye for an Eye, for me, it's going to be 4 stars. It's going to be in theaters and on demand June 20th. And that is Eye for an Eye.
But if you forgot about that, you can just Google it and it'll be the first movie that comes up.
So speaking of movies, Eric Holmes, you have an Apple TV Plus film called Echo Valley.
Yes. Actually, I should take back something I said earlier.
What?
Might not be the filmmakers coming up with these titles because sometimes it's marketing and it's out of their hands.
Right.
If that's the case, not talking to you. But if it's not the case, come up with a better title.
Come up with a better title, exactly. So Echo Valley came out on Apple
Echo
TV.
Valley. Let me Google Echo Valley real quick.
Yeah. So here's the plotline quote. Kate is dealing.
Crap.
What?
Echo Valley, 19 was born in. I don't know what that is.
Okay. Anyways, the movie stars Julianne Moore, Sydney Sweeney, Donald Gleason. It's directed by Michael Pierce. Quote, Kate is dealing with a personal tragedy while owning and training horses in Echo Valley, an isolated and picturesque place, when her daughter Claire arrives at her doorstep, frightened, trembling, and covered in someone else's blood. The mother is played by Julianne Moore. The daughter is played by Sydney Sweeney. Eric, your review of Echo Valley.
So first of all, I Googled Echo Valley. It's the only movie that comes up. Good on you, Echo Valley. You did your work. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say about this. So it does that. Sydney Sweeney comes in, and it's weird because that part happened, I want to say a half hour into it, maybe even 40 minutes. Like it came in pretty late in the movie. But up until that point, we get a lot of kind of family drama between Julianne Moore and Sydney Sweeney, because Sydney Sweeney definitely has drug problems and always going out with her boyfriend and getting messed up and then coming back. Like there's a point where she's like, yeah, we're just gonna go camping. We just need some money to go camping. She's like, you're doing drugs again. It's, no, we're just gonna go camping. It's like, here, just take a Narcan with you. Here's 3 of them. That's where they're at in their relationship now. But then after Sydney Sweeney comes back bloodied, and then I believe she's got a body in her trunk. There's a body, and then Julianne Moore decides that she's going to get rid of it. And it was supposed to be a body of someone, and maybe it's a body of someone else. And then that starts this whole kind of domino effect throughout the rest. This is like a really plot-heavy movie. Not plot-heavy in that it gets too convoluted. It's actually pretty simple, but it's like front loaded with the character stuff and then back ended with all the plot stuff. And then so once Julianne Moore decides to take charge and then starts finding things out, and then this happens and this happens. So you get to the end of the movie. By the time they get to the end, there's some stuff that happens that's incredibly satisfying to watch play out. And then it's also has, like with Baron's Cove, had that great final shot. This has one of those too. So it has that satisfying ending, but then the ending's not, we're not at the ending yet. Now we got that final shot just before the credits go, and that part's really good too.
Eric, would people who like mystery thrillers enjoy Echo Valley? Because my mom is a mystery thriller person. Or
Yes. So
Okay.
this isn't so much a mystery because you find out pretty quickly what's going on.
Okay.
But it's a fact. It's once you find out what's going on, it's you see how the machinations are turning or how they're set up. Now it's just a matter of watching it play out. So it's not like a mystery, like, ooh, what happened? It starts off that way at the beginning, but about halfway through everything. So now it's just a matter of just watching everything play out.
And it's interesting seeing all of those things play out then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially, and then there's a little, I want to say a twist, but there's like a kind of Shawshank Redemption sort of thing going on where it's, oh, that was going on this whole time.
Okay.
That there's maybe that says too much. I don't think so, but there's a bit in there that'll take you a little by surprise. Someone's just being a little smarter than you thought they were.
Okay.
And that might not be such a good thing for some people.
All right. So this is Echo Valley. Two great actors, and Julianne Moore and Sydney Sweeney, and of course Domhnall Gleeson's excellent.
This
as well.
also has like a really strong kind of Winter's Bone kind of vibe to it.
Okay.
It's like one of those kind of movies. So I would say if you like Winter's Bone, I like Domhnall Gleeson playing someone you'd like to choke the crap out of. Julianne Moore and Sydney Sweeney's, they're both great. They're dynamic. Like their dynamic's tough to watch, but it's really well done.
Okay. And yeah, Michael Pierce, like you put in the Google Doc, the director of Beast and Encounter. I have not seen Encounter. I think you saw that, Eric.
Yeah, that was with oh crap, what's his name? The guy from Sound of
Right. Sound of Metal. Sound of Metal?
Sound of Metal, yes.
Yeah.
Med.
Riz Ahmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see Encounter, but I love Beast a lot.
I saw Encounter like that, like Beast. Like that. I think of the three, this is probably his best one.
Oh, that's saying a lot then. Okay. So that is Echo Valley.
And his last two movies I saw are really good. So yeah, this is pretty high praise.
Okay, what is your rating on Echo Valley, currently streaming on Apple TV Plus?
I'll go 4 stars. Just because I think it's a little slow going in the front half.
Okay.
But then once it gets going, it's well worth your time after that.
Okay. I thought you were going to give it higher because you said it's better than Beast and Encounter. Beast is a 3.5?
Mostly it's just that I think it needs a little shave at the beginning. Other than that, it rolls. Once it gets going, it rolls on pretty good.
Okay, so that is 4 stars from Eric Holmes for Echo Valley, currently streaming on Apple TV Plus. That is it for this week of Cinematics. Oh, I forgot to mention for our Patreon, this month's Patreon, for our members, we're spotlighting the year 1995. Our assigned pick for next week's
You're gonna pull out the dice.
No, I did it because I wanted to make sure I put everything on the Google Doc. So I randomized everything myself on this one because my bad. We were too late this month on picking. So the assigned pick for the main episode next week, episode 300, by the way, is Copycat. Thanks to Stephen Schrock for that. He is a Patreon member.
Hey, Greg, roll the dice and you tell us what our next movie is.
No, so I wish I could do that, buddy.
All right, number 5. What's that?
No ways. Patreon and our Patreon bonus for our 2 movies that we're going to cover for this month. For this month, are Last of the Dogmen and Shallow Grave. Both of these picks are by Chad Wilfong. Thank you, Chad, for those beautiful picks of Last of the Dogmen and Shallow Grave. I remember seeing Shallow Grave way back when. I still haven't seen Last of the Dogmen.
Is that the Danny Boyle movie?
Yes, the Danny Boyle movie. And
okay.
Last of the Dogmen is the...
Yeah, it's been a long time since I saw that. I just saw Copycat. I just watched that like a month or 2 ago.
Oh, cool. So,
for some reason, I remember Harry Connick Jr. being a bigger part of that movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's barely in the movie. Like, he's just basically at the beginning and then...
Okay.
Anywho, it was a good movie from... Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be covering that for the assigned pick for next week. That's Copycat. It's directed by John Emile. Eric said stars Harry Connick Jr., Dermot Mulroney, and also we talked about Dermot Mulroney and Sigourney Weaver, and of course Holly Hunter. Isn't Holly Hunter in this movie? In Copycat? I think she was. Oh, I could be wrong.
I said it was a month or 2 ago. I can't remember.
No, you know what?
Far back.
I guess you're right. So I guess I'm probably wrong that it was Holly Hunter in Copycat. Anyways,
Yeah, Holly Hunter's in it.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
And
Sigourney Weaver, Holly Hunter, Dermot Mulroney, Harry
all
Connick
right,
Jr., Will Patton.
okay,
Yeah,
great cast, great
all
cast.
them people.
All those people. And again, our Patreon bonus will be Shallow Grave and Last of the Dogman, which I've not seen Last of the Dogman
I've
really.
never even heard of that one.
That stars Tom Berenger, I believe, and I think Barbara Hershey, I think. But that Chad Wilfong picked that for our Patreon because he said he recently saw that movie. So it'll be cool. So that is it. Next week will be Patreon and the movies that we're covering for episode 300, including include the aforementioned Copycat. And let's see, let me scroll right to the bottom. Yes, Eric did interviews for The Sound. So Eric's already seen this movie called The Sound. That will be for next week. Off the Grid, Eric, I don't know if you received that screener link. I requested one for you. It stars
I
Josh
believe I did.
Duhamel. Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so we got The Sound, Copycat, Off the Grid, Escape from the 21st Century, and The Last Class. So those are 5 movies. We really do so many movies.
And one of those has a title that you could Google and actually find the movie.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Oh, also, Bruce Purkey over at the Cinem-Attic, he has reviews. By the way, I did see The Queen of My Dreams. Bruce will have the review. I really love The Queen of My Dreams as well. Eric, why don't you just put for The Queen of My Dreams, put 4.5 stars for me. I'll eventually review it some form or fashion for The Queen of My Dreams.
Okay.
And then let's see. Bruce Purkey also has a review of the Netflix doc, Trainwreck, the Mayor of Mayhem. And last but not least, hopefully not least, he has a review of this mockumentary called Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I was going to watch that found footage making of the Patterson Project, but now that's a good title because you Google that, it's the only thing that's going to come up. So get on you for that. But a found footage movie that's supposed to be a documentary of a found footage movie, is that?
Who knows? Bruce will have the review.
It just sounds like too many layers of found footage. I don't know if I can do this.
I was looking at the trailer. It looks like a silly movie that you might like. I don't know if Bruce liked it, but we'll see what Bruce has to say about it in a few moments. That is it for our section of Cinematics. Head over to the attic and check out Bruce Purkey in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another Cinematic Attic of Cinema. Once again, I have found a way to creep out of the attic, out of the place, out of the corner of the attic where I'm kept barely fed, pumped full of visual movies and TV and stuff that Eric decided I needed to see for that week and Greg supplied, and it's just quite a situation. And it's not quite a Mystery Science Theater 3000 situation, but it's getting close. Anyway, this week, what do we have for you? I have watched found footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. I've got Trainwreck, The Mayor of Mayhem. I've got The Queen of My Dreams. And then it's kind of a recommend, but it's also a pretty new release. It's only been out for a few weeks. A series on Netflix called Department Q. All right, let's get going. First up, let's see, which one should we do first? Should we do best to worst, worst to best, or just do them randomly? I think I'm going to start with The Queen of My Dreams, directed by Fazia Mirza, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Hopefully I am. It has a whole bunch of actors, but the main actors you're going to have in here, I guess for me, the main actors are going to be, as Azra, you have Amrit Kaur, if I can say the name correctly. And then Miriam, you have played by Nimra Bucha. And also both of them have different versions of themselves being played by different actors, like younger versions. But those are, I think, the lead versions that you see the most. And this takes place in a lot of time periods. Like I said, it starts in Toronto, but it's mostly in Pakistan. And I believe it's a Canadian Pakistani co-production, although at least the story that's being told is mostly Pakistani, but they have a strong Canadian connection because some of the main characters end up immigrating to Canada. So basic story of this is you start out with Azra, young woman, probably, college age woman. She is living in Toronto in 99, and she's waiting for her parents to visit from Pakistan. She is in a relationship with a woman, Azra is, and you can see that she's out where she lives. It looks like she's not hiding who she is, but it seems like she maybe isn't really fully 100% out to her parents. And while she's waiting for her parents to arrive, partway there, her father has a heart attack and dies. And immediately everything's thrown up in the air, and she has to return to Pakistan to basically help deal with on the funeral and all the arrangements and all that stuff, and her family, and see her family and all that stuff. So she leaves behind her girlfriend and goes there. And at the beginning, I'm thinking this is going to be all about her coming out to her mom or her parents or whatever, coming to terms with being gay and all this kind of stuff. But it isn't really that. It is much more about daughters and mothers, and also how, as people, generally, a lot of times you have older people that are quite conservative. That's the stereotype, right? In this case, her mom is like that. Her mom is always giving her a hard time, like, why aren't you a better Muslim? And why aren't you that? You kind of get that feeling that you get with a lot of parents where they're like, why don't you marry a young man and settle him down? Why aren't you practicing the religion I taught you? Why aren't you living a more stable life and just settling down? And all that kind of stuff. It's very traditional for a parent an older person and a parent to have that attitude with their kid. But what this movie does, I think that's really fun and really interesting, because this is a very bright, vibrant movie. If you're hearing this at the beginning, you're thinking, okay, it's like a family drama, probably slow, pretty serious. This movie is dramatic, but overall, it's really bright and really vibrant and very energetic. And I think that's the thing you don't get off the first description of this movie. And I want to leave you with that impression. It is not dour. It's not slow, it's not gray, it's the opposite of all those things. And what it really is getting at is how and why does a person who is younger and full of that kind of excitement and exploration of life and rebelliousness and wanting to find your own way in the world, how does that person become that other person, that conservative, older, you want to just have kind of things be in control? How do you become that kind of person, a parent, grandparent, whatever they are? And this movie really does that, because what it does is Azra gets there, of course, and immediately she has to fall back into a more conservative role that is not her life anymore. She has to put on traditional clothing. Of course, they're in mourning, and then she sees herself immediately getting pushed into the role of a woman in her version of that society over there, which is, what do women do during mourning? What are women not allowed to do during mourning? Be more like her mom's always going to be, I wish you were more like this, and that kind of stuff. And there's almost an offhand comment in the very beginning where Azra mentions that her mom had loved this this actor from the 60s, this actor called Shamila Tagore, who's a real actor. She's a musical actor. And I think if most people are going to see this and go, oh, Bollywood, but it's not Bollywood because this is Pakistan. But it has that same kind of style and feel. And there's this musical actress that was really glamorous and a huge deal. And that is Shamila Tagore. You can look at some of the clips. There's a clip they show over and over in this movie. It's almost like a running motif. Very romantic, beautiful, very 60s, cool almost. And there's a big point in this movie where it shows like how different Pakistan was in the 60s, how progressive and out there, and the women were really it was much less conservative. Even though it had conservative sides to it, it was overall less conservative. And I think that's the secondary line of this movie, is like, how did this great, vibrant country become so conservative over the last few years? If you want to look for the political slant of it, but really this is about relationships. So really quickly, Azra's back there dealing with the death of her dad, dealing with her mom, like being disappointed with her, and her mom being very conservative, and even treating her brother, Azra's brother's getting treated much more like he gets to do a lot more things. He gets to be involved a lot more because he's a guy, he's a man, than Azra does. They bring up this actor, and Azra's mom, which is Miriam just ignores the fact that she even liked that actor in the past. But Azra's like, you were obsessed with her. She's your favorite thing in the world. And her mom's, no, she wasn't, whatever. And then a huge chunk of the movie becomes a flashback. So really what you get here is almost 2/3 of the movie is in the 60s in Pakistan, and then eventually in Canada. And you essentially see how similar Azra and Miriam are, and how Miriam was this hugely, I keep saying the word vibrant, but a hugely active, and she explored life, and she just was, and she also herself, you get a clues that she might have been slightly, quote, tomboyish. Maybe she almost was interested in women, but it doesn't really go that way. She meets the future dad of Ozra and everything, and they have a romance. So it kind of becomes this romance, but also seeing like the role of women and how she was very much her own person and loving life and really doing all these great things. And how eventually she met Ozra's dad and they end up going off to Canada, and their life there. You have a part of their life there too, which is in the 80s or 70s at that point, which is interesting as well. So this ends up being a period piece. It's super, super energetic, super engaging. You end up, the movie just loves these characters, loves the time period. It looks like amazing. Just seeing all the 60s fashion in Pakistan and a chunk of it. And then I think, like I said, I think it might be 70s or early 80s fashion and stuff in Canada. And seeing these, after you've seen the life they were living in Pakistan, and then seeing the life they end up living in Canada, and then seeing a very young Azra, and how Azra is discovering as a child, like her sexuality, as well as her place in that society and her place in her family. It's just one of those engaging family comedy drama with tinges of music movies that, I mean, like a Coda or like one of those kind of movies that's just so lovable, and the people are so lovable, and you're rooting for everybody. And really all it's doing is it's coming down to the point of, is the mother going to rediscover who she was now after the death of her husband? And he's not the fault for her becoming conservative as far as like his personality. He is very loving and very encouraging. And is Azra going to come to discover herself and keep herself in this whole world? And are the two of them going to connect? And I think it's just a wonderful movie. This is 5 stars for me. Once again, it'll probably get lost in the shuffle, but this movie deserves a lot of people watching it. And I think it's one of those that has very broad appeal. A lot of times I suggest a movie and I say, if you like this kind of movie, it'll be for you. Or if you don't like this kind of movie, it won't be for you. This is a movie I think that will be the right kind of movie for a lot of people, except that it's mostly, not all, it's a lot of it in English, but there's a lot of it not in English. People see that and they're like, oh, it's international. I don't really deal with those kind of movies. It's not for me. I think they'd be really missing out, because I think a lot of people, if they gave this a chance, would really love it. Especially, I could imagine young women. The whole mother-daughter dynamic is such a strong part of this movie. I think that would work really well for a lot of people. But once again, it's international. It's for everybody, because everybody can relate to the idea of being a kid and having some kind of strife with your parents because your parents are disappointed in the path you took, or they want you to be something you're not. That is such a huge thing for so many people in their lives. And how do you become your own person and be accepted for it? And once again, not heavy-handed on the sexuality part. Even though it's there, it's really just about trusting and being in yourself and understanding the person that brought you there, and that person understanding themselves and reaccepting who they really are. It's just so good. It's so good. So fun. And that, once again, is the queen of my dreams. Okay. I also watched a mockumentary called Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. Very long title. Max Tsanis, I'm going to say the name. It's Tzannes. Max Tsanis is the director. And the basic idea of this movie is it's like you've got this group of filmmakers that want to make this really low budget horror movie about Bigfoot. And Patterson Project, remember that Patterson film is the really famous Bigfoot film of the Bigfoot kind of walking in the riverbed, like a dry riverbed in Oregon, if I remember correctly. And in fact, there was a kind of a documentary style horror movie actually made by Bobcat Goldthwait that we talked about way back when on, I think, Find Your Film, called Willow Creek, which is actually surprisingly pretty good and taken pretty straight. It's not really a comedy. This is much more of a comedy. It's somewhere like, I guess if you remember, like American Movie, if you've seen American Movie, which is a documentary on the filmmaking of this low budget horror film. And it's really not about the horror film as much as it is about the oddball characters in real life that made American Movie. They were making a movie called Coven, Coven, Coven. They always called it Coven. This movie definitely wants to do some of that, but it's a fictional movie about the making of that documentary film, or not, it's a fictional documentary. So it's a mockumentary about the making of this horror movie about Bigfoot. So you're really just watching all these. It's almost like a guest movie, like a, what is it? Waiting for Guffman or those kind of things too, where like you're just trying to follow all these funny characters, but they're all fictional characters, but supposedly they're real characters. I'm being confusing, but you get the idea. I guess another movie I would compare it to is One Cut of the Dead, where it starts out being about the making of the movie, and then it becomes this meta movie about the making of the movie and then what's going on behind the scenes, that kind of a thing. This movie also is doing that. So the basic idea is you got all these characters, and the director is trying to get all the actors, and they're trying to get backing for it. And in fact, to get backing, they have to get this old woman to give them money, but her favorite actor is Alan Rickman. So they have to basically assure her that Alan Rickman will be there and that she'll get to meet Alan Rickman. But of course, Alan Rickman's dead, but she's a little bit old and doesn't know that he's dead. So they have to cast somebody to pretend to be Alan Rickman. That's probably for me the best subplot in the whole movie. There's some other subplots as far as the different actors, and the director's girlfriend is in the crew, but she's starting to get interested in another guy. There's a lot of stuff like that. There's a terrible suit, and like how are they going to get the suit to work for Bigfoot? And all of this sounds like it'd be really funny and a great kind of a premise for lots of humor. And then there's also a whole thing where they finally get to the cabin where they're going to film it, which is, it's not very spooky cabin. It's just like a regular old like B&B cabin you'd get up in the Sierra Nevada mountains somewhere probably. And they go down to the basement for something, and there's an extra room down there, and it is indicated that, oh, they might have uncovered something actually evil so there may be an actual supernatural true thing happening behind the scenes. So an extra whole layer of this, like up on the mockumentary level, there's this, but then behind it, there might be an actual horror movie happening that we don't even know about. They're unintentionally filming. So how does it work? It sounds like a great potential here. And I say, and it's scruffy and rough around the edges. It's a very low budget. The problem is there have been some really great low budget movies that kind of have been in this sphere in the last 10 years. Like I said, One Cut of the Dead would be like probably the top of the mountain of that. The other one is oh shoot, I can't get the name exactly in my head. It was oh my gosh, I can't remember it. It's the Japanese movie where they keep filming ahead. They could see ahead in time, like just another 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it was, and 5 minutes into the future. I forget what it was called, but it was really inventive and cool. This movie is not near as inventive or as, I guess, experimental in that sense. It's a little more straightforward. And it has a really great heart, and I really appreciate the scruffy spirit of it, but it just wasn't very funny. It was funny enough. There's something that funny. Like I said, some of the stuff, that Rickman stuff, that was funny. And there was definitely some moments, some stuff with the suit, and you could just see that with a little bit more, I don't know, not a budget necessarily. You don't need the budget for this movie. I think just a little better script or something that would have been funnier or scarier. Because when it wants to actually be scary, that's all stuff I've seen before. But all that being said, I had a good enough time with it. I don't want to just trash it. It's not, I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, don't go out and watch it. But I would say have very tempered expectations. Once again, this isn't a movie I would probably run out and see in the theater. I don't think it needs that. It doesn't have a really cinematic scope to it. But if it was on a streamer like a Shudder or something, yeah, give it a try. If you're in the mood for that kind of light, making fun of found footage shows and movies, if you like those kind of movies, this might give you a little more to watch as well. I guess I'll go 3 stars. I think that's a pretty generous 3 stars. I could see myself going lower, but this has all the right intentions, and it's, like I said, super low budget, and I could see them really trying to step out of the box a little bit with what they had and with the resources they had. So doing the best they could with that. I guess you don't want to rate movies based on what they were going for, right? But I would say I had an okay time watching it, so good enough to give it 3 stars. Once again, it's a pretty mild recommend. 3 stars for the mockumentary found footage, the making of the Patterson Project. All right, what else do we got here? We've got Trainwreck, Mayor of Mayhem, directed by Sean Brown. Now, if you've ever watched any of the Trainwreck series on Netflix, you'll know what they are. They're essentially documentaries, usually not super long. They're not the 3-part, 4-part documentary series that you get on a lot of these. Usually the Trainwreck ones are a single one-off documentary and often not very long. I think this one is about 45 to 50 minutes, so it's not even a full-length feature. So it might be because sometimes these documentaries that are in this middle ground where they're long enough to be more than a short, but they're also not quite this extended documentary thing that you get these days. In fact, I really appreciate the fact that these are not often 3 or 4-part documentaries because a lot of times those don't have enough to be that long because a lot of times those end up being 3 or 4 hours, whereas a lot of times you only need 90 minutes or less for an effective documentary on certain subjects. This would be a pretty good example of that. Mayor of Mayhem is essentially about this politician in Canada, in Toronto, which twice we have Toronto going on here. I don't know what's up with that. A weird Toronto connection this week. Rob Ford, mostly from 2013, but it gets a little bit before that and a little bit after that. But 2013 is about the time period you're looking at for most of Rob Ford's kind of infamy. And he basically ran for and became the mayor of Toronto. And they point out in this movie that Toronto is the 4th largest city on the continent, which I never thought of that before because I don't think I've really been to Toronto before. I don't think. I know I've been in that area of Canada, but I don't think I've quite been there. And you never think of it as some cities being that big, especially in Canada. When you're an American, of course, we have all the big cities. But then I think about it and I'm going like, we got New York and LA and probably Chicago or maybe Dallas Fort Worth. I don't know which those two probably goes bigger. Anyway, I'm sure you can look it up. But I guess basically that puts it in the 4th is Toronto. So it's huge. And to be run by this dude, it makes you wonder. So what you need to know about Rob Ford is essentially, if you don't know who he is, or if you vaguely have a recollection like, oh, I think I remember something about that guy, that's a very American approach, right? If it's not American, then we don't know about it. And I guess I'm also one of those people where I go, I think I remember this guy a little bit because he did eventually get a little bit of international fame and infamy, like I said, mostly because he's almost this huger than life character physically and in character and personality. You could almost imagine him. He could definitely be played by SNL or something. In fact, they didn't do it. I'd be surprised because he was just like this huge, blustery, looks like he'd be a football coach, Madden type guy, big bear of a man, very much like playing on the populism of, I'm just one of you. I'm a working man, a football coach. I know what the regular man wants. You should be putting me into a position of power. I'll get things done because I'll care about you, the worker, the small guy. You should be listening to me. And of course, what he's known for is being accused of smoking crack and various other scandals. And is this a huge, deep documentary? No. Is it very breezy and does it go by quick? Yes. Does it give you some crazy antics by a rise and super burnout and then very fast fall, but also still beloved in a weird way? Politician and character in world history and Canadian history? Yes. Rob Ford is definitely someone that kind of goes down in that role. Now, on a kind of more serious level, you can also see it as a huge harbinger of what eventually became Trumpism in America, and that is what was going on in the world in 2013, and then, of course, eventually in 2015 and 16 in America. What is going on in the world that is creating this kind of need and this hunger by the voting public for these very, very brash, very flawed people that at some point are essentially just saying, yeah, that's me, and you still are going to vote for me, and I'm still the best person, and whatever. This is who I am. But in a way that's gross, in my opinion. And it becomes an interesting microcosm to see that this actually was happening in Canada too, not as huge of a scale as it's ended up being in America, of course. And even it happened in Britain, of course. They had one. Forget what his name was now, but he was his own version of that. And they've had various versions of this around the world. So it's definitely something that historians will look back in 30 years from now, if we still exist on this planet. 30 years from now, they're going to look back and go, what was going on in the world that was creating the need or the hunger by humans to have these sorts of leaders, these leaders that essentially are objectively not great citizens, not examples of what you really even want as who would you want this person as your dad? Probably not. Would you want this person as a teacher? Probably not. But somehow we want them as politicians. We want them to run our countries or run our giant cities. We want these people there. It's just, I guess once again, when I'm getting to politics here, I think when you see here and what you see in the world now with Trump too, is that what's overriding everything is I think there's such a cynicism on the fake morality that we don't believe in our politicians. We don't believe what they're saying anyway. So when they present themselves as these kind of upstanding moral creatures, we just assume that they're lying to us and that are full of BS. So when we see someone that tells us outwardly that they're terrible people, then we think somehow that makes them better qualified and better for the job just because they're at least telling us they're terrible people. Now, I would argue that it's kind of like the old, I guess, the cliche in dating, right? When a guy tells you what he is, believe him. You can't change him. I think we're all in toxic relationships. We're all in abusive relationships with our politicians right now, and that they're telling us they're terrible people. And we're either thinking we can change them, we're going to be the one that changes them as a nation. So I'm going to change Rob Ford. I'm going to change Trump. He's gonna love us, and then we're gonna be a good country. It's that kind of a thing, almost. But whatever. Politics, you don't care about it. What about this documentary? It's decent. I think it's one of those things where the documentary itself doesn't really do a whole lot. It's really just the character of Rob Ford is so crazy and out there, and if you don't know the story, there's so much ridiculousness to be had in such a short, bright flame out that you can't not enjoy it. Wait, am I saying that wrong? I had too many negatives again. If you're looking for something interesting, this is definitely interesting. An oddity of politics in the 21st century, worth checking out. Is it profound? No. Does it go very deep? Not at all. I think this is a movie that definitely could, like I'm saying, like you could put this into a context and have him as part of a bigger picture, and I think do a much more, what would you say, a much more profound documentary about like society and leadership and politics in the 21st century and what's happening in the world and the need for these kind of people. But here you're just really looking at, this is a guy, why do people still love him after all that happened? Why do some people hate him after all that happened? And what was the craziness that was going on in Toronto for about 2 years or 3 years? And here you go. And in that sense, it's very effective. It just doesn't go very deep. So I'll probably go 3.5 stars. It's almost a 3-star banger. Weirdly, I don't think we've ever had a documentary that was a 3-star banger. I don't think, maybe. But if you're looking for this kind of thing, this is a great version of that kind of thing. But I think I'll go stick with 3.5 stars. 3.5 stars, I think. It's definitely quick, interesting, energetic, and fun for what it is, but doesn't go very deep. Okay, what else we got here for you today? Last but not least, a kind of a recommend for you. Also, I did watch about half of An Eye for an Eye. I'm curious to hear Greg's review of that because I wish I could have finished it. I ran out of time, but it could have gone either way for me, so I'm curious to hear how it ended up going for Greg. You already know by now, probably. Either way, I'm not going to review it either way because it's not fair since I only watched about 40 minutes of it. Department Q. I watched the entire series. It's about 8 or 9 episodes on Netflix. But it is out of, I want to say it's out of Scotland. Boy, I should know if I watched 9 episodes, huh? I'm terrible. Out of Scotland. But British for all of us Americans is about all you have to get to. And this is essentially like a police crime procedural series, but with a lot more flair than I expected. And you might have seen it popping up on your thing. It's only been around for maybe 3-4 weeks at the most. Department Q. It stars as the main character is Carl Mork, Matthew Good. You also have Akram, played by Alexei Manvela, terrible. DC Rose Dixon, played by Leah Byrne. Merritt, played by Chloe Perry, and a whole bunch of other people. Basically Carl Mork. For Americans, Mork is a different name, but Mork is your main guy. It starts out and you just have him going into a crime scene. A guy's been murdered. Him and his partner And there's some young like cop dude, like a young cop dude that's there on the scene waiting for them to arrive. The two detectives, Mark and his partner, go in. The young cop dude goes in with them. He said, I haven't touched the scene. There was obviously this murder here. We need to investigate it. While they're in there looking around, a stranger is also in the house. They don't know it. And they turn the corner. The stranger comes out, shoots them all, and almost starts. That's the cold open of this series. And you think, oh my gosh, they're all dead. But the young kid guy is dead. Mork is injured but not dead. And Mork's partner is paralyzed. And then the main part of the series takes place months and months later, I think almost a year later. Obviously, Mork is damaged in PTSD. He always was gruff and not very well liked as a person. Like he's one of those kind of detectives that was annoying to everybody and they didn't really like him. And now he's even probably more. He just is a sour person, but good at his job. You've seen these things before. And of course, after being shot and everything, he doesn't really, people aren't basically don't think he's ready to go back and do his thing yet. And essentially his boss says, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're not ready yet, buddy. We've got this whole giant basement room in our police department here. You're going to go down there, set up your own office down there. You've got all the cold case files. Do your thing. Find a cold case that you want to look for, and you can go investigate it. And essentially, they're putting him out to pasture. They don't want to deal with him anymore. You get this cold case, and you get to do it. And you can see, okay, in some ways, it's a very tropey, but it's an entertaining trope. The idea of the outcast, a renegade cop, but he's not doing crazy stuff, right? He's just, they're going to give him like the most dead files. That's what you get. And he just basically starts looking through all the dead files out of boredom mostly because he has nothing to do. And he's down in his basement all alone. And essentially he finds a file of a case where the solicitor, which I think is their lawyers, essentially their lawyers, the solicitor had gone and disappeared, and she'd been gone for 4 years and assumed dead. And that's why it's a cold case file. It's just there. They had investigated it a little bit when she disappeared, and she never showed up. They figured she just died and no one ever found her. And that's it. Done. And he starts looking into it. And of course, the series ends up becoming him solving that case. And what is really entertaining about this, and once again, a trope, but it works. So what the heck? The basic concept throughout this is that he gathers his team. And of course, this whole basement room starts becoming more gets character to it and has desks and it moves everything around. And as he grows the team, they have their own little, almost like their superhero lair in a sense, down in the basement. And that's, of course, Department Q. But he gets a ragtag team. Like I said before, the characters I mentioned, Akram is this dude from Syria who's always hanging out at the station because he wants to be a cop, because he used to be a cop. But he's not a cop. He's just hanging out there. He's almost like a groupie. And he's bothering one of the other women there who's just on office duty. She's on desk duty because she's been sidelined too. And that's Rose. Rose has been sidelined because she's had her own issues. And this Akram dude is almost stalking her and bugging her constantly. So she essentially shunts him off to Mork. So now Mork has Akram as his only assistant, even though he's not even a cop. Of course, they eventually get Rose. And that's the whole way this movie works. They keep adding people in. He gets back his old partner, who's for probably 2/3 of the series, is literally in a hospital room trying to rehab and unable to walk and having to do stuff just from his laptop or whatever they can give him. So once again, a ragtag team of oddballs. You've seen it before, but it can work, and I think it works here. A team of ragtag oddballs trying to solve a very convoluted but entertaining mystery. And the characters they meet are entertaining, and there's like twists and turns, all those things you expect. And it has that weird rough around the edges British style that makes it, to me, more unique because we're not seeing that style in America constantly. And it looks great. And a lot of times in TV series, you don't necessarily expect it to look great. It doesn't have to look great. This movie has a lot of visual style. I should have looked up a cinematographer because it looks pretty fantastic. And there was somebody, and I should have looked it up. Greg, I know you're going to find out afterwards when you listen to this. There's somebody involved with something else that we all loved. And I am dropping the ball on that, and I'm sorry. That's what originally drew me to it. And the glut of things on Netflix, for some reason, this attracted my eye. Either way, I would say Department Q is really solid if you like police procedural series and you want something that's pretty meaty, pretty satisfying, and has some really great characters. It's the only season they have out. I don't know if they've produced any other seasons yet and it hasn't been picked up. This could easily be picked up and be an ongoing series because they've obviously set it up to be, hey, we now have the team, like the Avengers or something. We now have this team and a whole bunch of cold case files. We could have a season anytime we want. It's easy as far as that goes. But if this is alone the only one they ever get, it would be satisfying and good as a unit. I would say this first season, the only season so far that I'm aware of Department Q, is probably 4 stars for me. Great characters, very entertaining, very solid. And I think that's all I got for you this week. I think next week, I don't know, is it next week that we're doing the Patreon or the week after? Well, pretty soon we're doing the Patreon. And it's 1995. I think the movies have been selected. They probably already mentioned them. I know it's going to be Shallow Grave, which I've seen at least twice, but probably have not seen for over 20 years. So look forward to going back and checking out that, I believe. Annie Boyle's first movie, I think. Ewan McGregor's first-ish movie, I think. I remember it being pretty entertaining, little crime-ish, neo-noir-ish sort of a movie. And Last of the Dogmen, which I have not seen, but I've heard the name. I don't even know exactly what it's about. Is it about war? Maybe? Probably? I think these are both suggested by Chad Wilfong. Hey, Chad. He watches more movies almost than Joseph Bridges, but I don't think so. But Chad watches a lot of movies. He watches more than me every year. I'm pretty sure about that. He'll watch everything too. He's like, I'll get Greg and Eric will watch these weird action movies and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I don't think I can do it, man. I don't think I can do it. And I'll see Chad, like what he watched in the last week or so. And it'll be like 8-10 movies. And he'll watch all these awesome movies. I'll be like, yeah, cool. You saw that. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, you watched that movie too that Greg and Eric watched. And hey, man, you guys like what you like. I just see another movie with, who should I put in there? Who's the characters that I see that I'm not even going to say, but certain actors, when they pop up, I'm just like, oh no, not one of those again. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We'll have some weird stuff for you next week. I think it's the Patreon next week too. If it's not, it's 95. Catch up. You can listen to what we're going to talk about. I'm supposed to do research, so I guess I'm falling down already. I need to research harder because I don't even remember what we're doing and when we're doing it. We will talk to you again, see you again, listen to you again next week. And never fail to send us any ideas that you have or thoughts or movies you think we should check out. Or, hey, are we crazy about that movie? I know someone put a post a year ago or 6 months ago, and they said, what are the movies that the guys from CinemAddicts have suggested to you that was the worst movie or something like that? And I thought that was pretty funny. We all have had those moments where we like praise some movie. For whatever reason, it worked for us, and everyone else is, you gotta be kidding us. That was terrible. There's always a few of those too. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I guess I'm creeping back into the attic. Talk to you soon.